Thanks, everybody, for joining me today on For the Sake of the Argument. Lori Goldman here. We had Christy McGillivray, who is the Executive Director of Voters Not Politicians, and she had some very important things to talk about, especially these AI farms. And I am still in shock about what I learned today, how they're going to use our water resources, pollute the water. It won't be refurbishable. And Michigan is a target for a lot of these. So check us out. Tell your friends. For the Sake of the Argument, you can catch us on all social media platforms. And thanks for being here again today. Christy McGillivray, thank you for coming today to be on For the Sake of the Argument. You're the Executive Director of Voters Not Politicians. What kind of work is your organization focusing on now? And can you tell us a little bit about Michiganders for Money Out of Politics ballot petition and what that's about?
Well, that's what we're focusing on. So thanks for teeing me up.
My pleasure.
Yeah, no problem. So I think as most of your listeners probably know, Voters Not Politicians is a grassroots citizens-led organization, my favorite to work for, that focuses on structural reform that is nonpartisan for democracy. So we exploded onto the scene in 2018. We got redistricting reform accomplished.
Thank you for that. Thank you for that. Thank you for that.
And I actually can't take too much credit for it because I was not working at VNP at the time. So all the credit to the original VNP volunteers and staff. And then we worked really hard to expand ballot access. We've seen some of the highest voter turnout elections as a result of that. Very exciting. These were all incredibly important structural reforms for democracy. And we also saw that we did not go nearly far enough, and we have a lot more work to do, in part because of the disastrous meltdown at the end of the last legislative session, where lots of bills that actually help people died. So a part of what we're working on now, nonpartisan structural reform for democracy, is getting money out of politics, because that is a bipartisan problem that is corrupting our state legislature and leading to a really perverse incentive where legislators actually are less likely to pass popular legislation because it gets backlash from corporate interests. So instead of actually moving on things that are incredibly popular across the political spectrum, they'll pick and choose at little tiny niche popular things that they can get some credit for without having to actually rock the boat with corporate interests that are putting shareholders and their bottom line ahead of what actually benefits everyone. This has massive bipartisan implications. This has nothing to do with political party. We have to get money out of politics. And so we're going to the ballot to do that.
Because they're not working for us.
No.
They're working for special interests. But let me phrase this very carefully. But who in the fuck is against getting money out of politics? I mean, don't they have to work harder because everybody has to raise so much money that they never really deal with issues, constituents, legislation?
Well, you're seeing smart elected officials very vocally coming out now because the problem is so entrenched and so bad. And this is across the political spectrum. So I'll give you an example. Rep. Jim DeSanta from Downriver, MAGA Republican, all on board collecting signatures for MMOB. Dr. Abdullah Sayed, all on board. He's going to start folding that in a lot more with everything that he does. You even see Alyssa Slotkin, right? I can't think of anyone more moderate than Alyssa Slotkin. And she is out there saying that she's not going to take corporate money. And she's saying that there are 6 out of 100 senators that have made the same pledge that she has, and it should be 100 out of 100. Yep. So I guess we'd have to go talk to those people that are not in the Alyssa Slotkin camp. So the people that want it that way, of course, are the people that benefit from it. So for example, if you are a contractor with the state right now, if our language gets on the ballot and everyone passes it and it's enforced, none of those 3 things are a done deal. Then if you are a contractor with the state that has contracts worth $250,000 or more, you'd be cut off from political giving. And I can tell you firsthand, I've had lots of conversations with people that have contracts with the state worth over $250,000 or more, or they had them previously. And they're the ones saying, no, we don't want to do this. So the people that have benefited, that have a lot of money and power, don't want to give it up. So those are the people.
And you can't talk about money in Michigan politics without mentioning DTE. everyone knows
They're a big fish.
they hold on to the politicians in Lansing, and DTE's influence is the kind of thing that you're trying to curb, I assume, with this petition.
Yes, we are. I think that at the very last minute during the last lame duck session, DTE weighed in to help make tax breaks happen for Silicon Valley billionaires that a coalition of environmental and education advocates had actually successfully stopped for about 6 months without proper protections. And what unstuck that and what rammed it across the finish line and onto the governor's desk was DTE weighing in. And it was because DTE now has an excuse to jack up everyone's energy bills to build more fossil fuels for data centers. And so it was really a combination of corporate interests that put the speculative profits of the AI bubble and DTE shareholders above the well-being of everyday Michiganders. And in my opinion, that was a tragedy. That never should have happened.
Well, forgive my ignorance, but I bet a lot of people have this question. We hear about DTE, DTE, DTE. Why are no other utility companies being raised? Like Consumers Power or whatever it's called.
Consumers is already spending against us.
Okay.
So we just had a round of campaign finance reporting. And of course, that's only the money you can track because so much of it is secret. But according to the money that you can track, Consumers is actually on the books spending against us. And there are two really big shareholder utilities, right? There are only two in Michigan. There's a combination of other different, corporate entities and municipally owned entities actually that generate power in the state of Michigan. But those are the two biggest ones and the most profitable ones. So that's why you hear about the most. And Consumers is a different corporate entity from DTE. I think it's fair to say that, but they still prioritize shareholder interests over actual everyday ratepayers, which is why they are spending, along with Blue Cross Blue Shield, to defeat this.
What would Michigan look like without DTE's massive corporate influence in our politics? What would we as Michiganders reap if we had that money out of politics from those entities?
That is such a beautiful image. Well, okay. I think we need not just that. We could tweak a few more things too. But if all of my structural reforms for democracy were in place, I think what we would see is a decentralized power grid. So you'd have less power outages. You'd see a lot more clean, renewable energy, especially for people that want it. I think one of the reasons why we're seeing this big backlash to renewable energy is because instead of incentivizing it with the communities and people that want it, we decided to juice the power of utilities and I'll give them the authority to railroad over communities that don't want it, right? Like that's a political nightmare. I think that we would see affordable healthcare. I think we would see public transit. I think that we would see affordable housing, better education systems. I mean, everything. And the reason I say that is because DTE, although it's not just them, the way that they weigh in paralyzes legislators in Lansing to the point where they will point blank tell you that they cannot introduce popular legislation that people like because it is too big of a risk. And that was the entire legislative strategy of the House and Senate Dems in 2024. It was to wait until the very last minute after the election to do everything. They said this over and over again, because if they did things that were really, really popular, then DTE and Consumers and the Chamber of Commerce would dump money on the election, they would lose, and everything would disappear.
Money really is evil.
In
politics.
Yeah, it's really tricky. I mean, I see money as, it's interesting having this conversation because I think money is a thing that we all just like collectively believe has value. Right? So what if we collectively
My
change
mortgage
how we
company
approach it?
believes it has value, yes.
Yes. And, one of the things, for example, that's being debated right now in the state legislature is a whole raft of crypto bills, right? Speaking of value, I know, This is all related, by the way, because you need data centers to create the crypto, which I like to describe as just multi-level marketing, but currency, right? It's like crazy stuff. Yeah, I think that we are sitting here trying to figure out how, as a state, we want to invest in a speculative currency market that does not treat everyone who buys into it as if they are holding the same value of currency, right? Like this is a fiscal disaster. And instead of prioritizing public transit, affordable housing, clean water, we are prioritizing crypto bills that are literally going to make a handful of people very, very rich, while everyone else who invested hoping that they would make bank gets left out to dry.
Pyramid scheme at best.
It's a pyramid scheme.
Pyramid scheme.
It is totally a pyramid scheme, and it's tied to data centers. Therefore, it's tied to DTE.
It's horrible. Let's talk about data centers.
Okay.
It's something that's really new on the scene, at least for me. I think a lot of us don't understand it. Give us a little synopsis about what they are, what they do, what the draw is, and does money and politics have anything to do with all of this popping up, these
Yes.
AI data centers?
Absolutely. So I think first and foremost, I think that just describing what they are, right? They're server farms. So they are the actual physical thing that creates the internet. So every photo that you take, every email that you send, every time you go into a Google Doc, that exists and you can access it because of a data center somewhere. So the internet is basically fiber optic cables, chips, GPUs, general processing units, and they're all housed in these big concrete buildings that are under like lock and key, right? Because the data's in there, which is really, really, key to companies getting ahead.
I'm going to sound stupid. Is that the cloud?
Yes.
Oh my God.
That's the
So
cloud.
it's not up where heaven is.
No.
Okay, got ya.
It's in a server farm in probably Illinois, maybe a few here.
Wow.
Yeah. So we actually have 52. Well, I don't even know if that's the case now. The last time I was looking into this, which was like 6-ish months ago, there are 52 data centers in Michigan already, right? Like they exist so that the internet can exist. And what's changed is artificial intelligence. So now Silicon Valley billionaires are in one giant dick measuring contest with each other to figure out who can get to market fastest with the most powerful AI in order to drown out the rest of them. And in order to actually build their artificial intelligence, they need entirely proprietary data centers that nobody else has access to. So they are building them out as fast as they can in order to beat each other in a race to become trillionaires. And that is incredibly different than anything we've seen before. It has exploded within the past year. And the infrastructure for all of that, because these facilities require massive amounts of energy and water, the infrastructure for all of that, we are paying for. So they make $1 trillion, like Elon Musk is worth $1 trillion now, apparently. And we underwrite all of their infrastructure costs.
On our utility bills?
Yes.
All right, you have an environmental background.
Yes.
Talk a little bit about that. What does this do to our beautiful state if we bring these all in, or the ones that already exist?
Well, we don't have to just guess at this because we know what's happened in other parts of the country where you've seen massive build-outs. And I think Virginia is actually the most important place to focus on because the largest cluster of data centers in the entire world is in Virginia. And in Virginia, you've seen massive strain on water resources there because they use a massive amount of water for their cooling. And you've seen utility bills go through the roof. In some cases, utility bills have increased as much as 70% recently within a couple months. And it's because the actual transmission lines that have to be basically built in order to provide all the extra power that data centers need is the most expensive part of power generation. And it is what we are all stuck paying for. So we've seen this happen in Illinois, North Dakota, Georgia, Florida, Ohio, Wisconsin, Indiana. I mean, the list goes on and on. Oregon, right? And the combination of energy and water is a really, really tricky one to tease out too. People like to separate them, but you use a massive amount of water in electricity generation, depending on the kind of electricity generation we're talking about.
More water than Nestle uses to take our water for free?
Massive amounts
Wow.
more. Massive amounts more. Like Nestle is a drop in the bucket. So data centers use the equivalent of the amount of water and power that a nuclear energy plant would use. So the largest water withdrawal in the state of Michigan at one point was the Palisades nuclear plant, which was shut down, but it's going to reopen for a data center. And coal plants, massive amount of water that they draw. And it's because they turn it into steam, which turns the turbine. So that's what actually makes the electricity. So if you have any sort of energy that requires steam in order to turn a turbine, you're using a ton of water. So it is entirely possible that depending on where and how they're drawing water, they're going to put a massive strain on water resources. And again, we know this because it's happening in other places. One of the things we hear quite often is that, oh, well, it's just steam evaporating. It's not. when they're actually using it to cool all of their servers, they're treating it with chemicals and a whole bunch of other stuff. And actually, there's recent research at the University of Oklahoma showing that once you've used water in a data center, that you actually can't return it to the water cycle because it's been treated with so many chemicals. Now, the reason why we can't say that definitively is because all these companies lock everything up behind NDAs. So it's really difficult to figure out even what they're actually doing with all the water that they're taking.
All right, that's terrifying to me as a lover of science fiction and horror movies.
Me too.
I have seen various iterations. We have all the water that is ever going to exist on the earth, but it recycles, like you say, in all these. But if it's treated with these chemicals, that is depleting where we started from.
Yes.
That is water we will not be able to use.
Correct.
Perhaps forever.
Well, and that we know of that's been third-party verified. Because remember, it's really hard to pin down what actually is happening because they make everyone sign NDAs. Like I was just in Kroger the other day and the Wall Street Journal, like they have the papers there, the real physical papers you can still buy. I know, crazy. But there was a above the fold headline, data centers, right? And I was like, oh, fuck, now I'm going to buy a copy of the Wall Street Journal. So I go and get a copy of it. And it was, rah, 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 taxes for local communities. Everyone loves data centers. That's the Wall Street Journal. It's not true.
Yeah.
But one of the things they said that was interesting even for the Wall Street Journal is that it's like Area 51 when it comes to data centers setting up shop in town because they force everyone to sign non-disclosure agreements and not talk about what's happening. So it's really actually difficult to get a good look into how they're actually engineering these facilities and whether or not they're making improvements because everyone is hiding it from public view, which, by the way, DTE wants to do. They are trying to fast track all the permits for the $7 billion related companies set up in Saline Township, and they're trying to fast track it without public oversight and public hearings.
So how do they and the politicians and the soon-to-be trillionaires shove this down the American people's throat? Is it because it creates jobs? Is that the little piece of bait that they jiggle before us?
They say, but that's not what happens. So yeah, they'll say it's jobs, which is deeply ironic because they'll go tell like normal human beings that they're creating jobs. What they go tell their investors is that they're destroying jobs. So if you go listen to their shareholder meetings, then what they're telling shareholders is that everyone has to get on board and invest in what they're doing because they're going to completely remake the economy and just automate everything. So they tell regular people, oh, we're going to bring all these jobs to your community. Oh, we're going to pay so much in taxes. We're going to save your schools. Oh, jobs, 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 jobs. And then they tell shareholders this technology is going to destroy every single job.
I'm kind of sorry I met you. I swear.
No, Lori, no.
Oh, no, I think you're amazing. But I have to tell you, this is very disturbing. Right now, how many data centers exist right now in Michigan?
The last time I looked, 52, and they're building more. And it depends on the kind of data center, right? I think it's really key to hone in on that. They're not automatically bad. So there was a proposal, I think, for a data center that is actually supposed to be built like on the same site as the Lansing Board of Water and Light. And they're proposing a really interesting scheme that would take all the heated water that they're using and instead of just discharging it or, whatever else they do, they're actually going to use it to heat various buildings and actually produce efficiencies in the plant, right? So there are ways that we can do this right. I think it's really important to zero in on that. There are ways that we can build these out and focus on efficiency, and we can focus on oversight, and we can mandate community benefits, and we can mandate that, billionaires that are becoming trillionaires actually pay fucking taxes, right? Like we can do this right. We can prioritize, for example, artificial intelligence used for human health research, right? Like that would be amazing. There's a world where AI might cure cancer. There's a world where AI actually is capable of solving climate change by identifying all the places where there are fugitive emissions that we're not watching, right? There is a world where this is actually good. That is not the world these guys are building. They are building secretive, massive surveillance tools that have contracts with the U.S. military and the U.S. government. That's what they're prioritizing right now. That's what they're prioritizing. And it doesn't have to be that way. So I think keeping focused on the idea, like every tool is a weapon if you hold it right. It doesn't have to be this way. It could be a lot better. But the thing that makes it better is democracy. That's what makes it better. And you have oversight and input and everyone's needs have to be taken into account. We get better outcomes. Right now, we have Silicon Valley psychos that are hell-bent on destroying democracy that are literally on track to become trillionaires. It is the most anti-democratic thing I can think of. So we could do it better. That's why we have to get money out of politics. They threw their weight around with DTE in order to get this done. And I actually do have faith in people to really push back and fight and change the course that we're on.
So these petition signatures that are being gathered right now, how many do you need to be safe?
To be safe, 500,000.
Yeah. 500,000.
58, something, 96.
Okay. And there's probably way, way more voters in Michigan, even in our apathetic state.
I don't think people are apathetic.
No. I'm talking about the apathetic people that I know. I know there are plenty of us out there that are doing everything we can, but I can't tell you how many people I run into. I sell real estate. I talk to a million people.
Fair.
I'm a nosy Budinsky, so I'm at the grocery store turning around, talking to the guy behind me. I can't tell you how many people, when I invade their privacy, tell me, I don't vote, it doesn't matter, don't care, don't talk about politics, don't talk about sex, don't talk about religion, and let's just be blind,
Those
right?
are interesting things.
Yeah. So I really worry about us. So you need 500,000 signatures, and you guys were killers when it came to the redistricting that VNP did back in 2018, I think. And that's when I had just dipped my toe in organizing. And I kind of wish I hadn't, but you know what? Here we are now. What do we do? How can we help you? What can we do to make sure that people understand? Is there a website or something that people can reach out to find out more information? Because I think diminishing our water supply and creating more trillionaires in our country when we don't know where our next healthcare payment is going to come from is a really fucking important thing.
Right. It's moral. Right? I think that like we've stopped talking about morality because we think it like devolves into like, I don't know, sectarianism or something. But it is, we were saying like 2 years ago that it was insane to have billionaires. And now you and I are sitting here having a conversation about the literal existence of trillionaires. That is amoral. So yes, we do need people to get involved. They can go to mopupmichigan.org to sign up and distribute petitions.
Mopupmichigan.org.
Yep. And I'm going to tell you a story about a Voters Not Politicians circulator that I met, was it last Saturday? No, the Saturday before. And I was at a meeting and, folks are giving presentations. And, one of the things that came up was, go collect for Invest in My Kids and go collect for Mop Up Michigan. Everyone should do that. And this guy comes up to where I was sitting and he says, I was collecting for you guys in 2018. His name's Lon. And I was like, oh, thanks, Lon. That's awesome. I was like, I wasn't there, but thank you so much. That's so great. How many signatures do you have to get money out of politics? And he was like, oh, I'm not collecting right now. And I know that was my face. I was like, and I was like, why? And he goes, oh, this is so popular. You don't need the volunteer army.
Oh, wow.
I know.
Wow.
And I was like, I was like, no.
Had he recently fallen and hit his head on a cement slab or something?
He's reflecting, I think, what a lot of people think, right? And I think one of the fascinating things about what happened in 2018 is that the perception was that gerrymandering was this like really obscure thing that nobody was going to care about, but it was rigging our whole political system and we were going to like expose this big scandal. And it got all of the like, very well-meaning nerds in every neighborhood in Michigan like on board because they were so excited to explain this like really obscure procedural thing, right?
It was.
I know. And so everyone got so excited to explain it. And like no one feels like they need to explain money in politics because everyone agrees it's bad. And so it's like because everyone agrees that it's bad, they're not making the connection that we still need to mobilize that massive grassroots power in order to get it done. Like, sure, we don't need to do, this massive community education campaign where we convince people that there's a problem in the first place. That's already done.
Right.
But what we need to do is actually get it on the ballot. And I can tell you right now that the millions of dollars that pour into Michigan for lefty politics are not pouring in for this.
Wow.
They are not.
Right.
And that is intentional. And in defense of all the people that are holding back and like waiting to decide whether or not to actually go all in on this, everyone is so overwhelmed by the flood the zone tactic from the Trump administration. I think that even whether or not people can articulate it, they feel this like closing in and distress about figuring out where to focus, right? It's really different from 2018. And so I think that everyone's kind of trying to keep their powder dry to like figure out where the fight's really going to be.
That's right.
And I can tell you right now, the fight is with corruption. It is with corruption. And every single authoritarian and fascist regime that has ever been brought down has been brought down by everyday people going after corruption. This is the smartest absolutely the most strategic thing anyone could be doing when it comes to politics in Michigan. And instead, most people are kind of waiting to see what happens. And I think we have to really disabuse folks of that notion. We need, donors to come to the table, and we need people out collecting signatures. We have to build this because we have to stop what is happening. And part of the reason I'm at Voters Not Politicians is because I personally, I left my old job because I made the personal calculation that taking a run at corruption was what we need to do to literally save lives. That's the most important thing we could be doing. So we have to get the word out.
I couldn't agree with you more. You're such a dynamic spokesperson. I'm glad that you're on the right side of history and on this issue. Now you get a little bit of the lightning round. It's very famous. It can be very awkward. It can be very scary, but I think you'll be fine. What is the most egregious instance of corporate lobbying you've seen in Michigan?
Okay, I've already told you about the data centers one.
Yeah. So that is the most. All right, what's the little sister to the most egregious data centers?
Little sister to the most egregious one. Well, I'm going to tell you about the most formative one for me.
Mm-hmm.
When I was a lot younger, in the Wayback Time Machine, the year 2002, there was, and don't quote me on that, I'm not sure it was 2002, but there was a run at wetlands protections that was going through the state legislature. And what happened at the very last minute is that there was a floor amendment that changed every shall in the bill to may. Do you get it?
No.
They don't have to do it. They can do it if they decide to.
Oh, wow.
Last minute.
Wow.
Last minute. And they'd been sitting on that amendment. They'd been sitting on it in a back room and cutting everyone else out of what they were going to do. And they had the votes whipped in the back room and nobody knew about it until the bill was actually moving. So you don't know what's actually happening with negotiations until a bill starts moving. And then you have to watch the floor amendments, you have to watch for the drafts they're not letting you read, and you have to hold their feet to the fire. And hopefully you have enough of a grassroots army behind you in order to make the fact that you're personally pissed off real. Because they do not care if you're personally pissed off. They care if you're pissed off and you have thousands of people behind you. And when they changed that shall to may, when they changed that and completely destroyed the entire bill, it was functionally unenforceable at that point. There was not an army of people behind us. So it didn't matter if we were mad.
So it really matters who we put into office, and then we have to still watch them.
We do.
No matter.
We do. And we have to unrig the system. We have to unrig the system. The incentives are baked in. Anyway, so yeah.
I agree.
I would say that wetland bill.
All right, I'm going to say his name wrong. Who is worse, Elon Musk or Peter, is it Thiel or Thiel?
Peter Thiel.
Thiel. Oh, Peter Thiel is your choice?
Sure.
Why is he worse than Elon Musk?
Because he is giving lectures on the Antichrist, and he is saying things like he is religious but not spiritual. Elon Musk is kind of I don't know, he's got it all hanging out there, and he's just done too many drugs, and he's just lost his damn mind, right?
Right.
Peter Thiel is like a cartoon villain of bad.
Right.
He's
using
literally
religion like religion is often used. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just so insidious. And it is really hard to pick one, but the fact that he says that his favorite author is Tolkien, yet he is hell-bent on accumulating power in order to abuse it. I'm get this man a fucking liberal arts degree and send him to seminary. Jesus. He can't read. He's not literate. Anyway, Peter Thiel.
Okay. I think that was definitive, and I have to tend to agree. So after a long day of fighting corporate influence in politics, how does a person such as yourself, who I'm sure your mind is always turning, always thinking, always worrying, always plotting, how do you relax?
My spouse would tell you I don't. It is actually really hard to relax right now. I do spend a lot of time in the Reuther Archive at Wayne State University. I am deeply calmed by history because every time I think that I'm special and my decisions are super important, I find solace in knowing that we've been at many tipping points and lots of people have persevered, and it makes me feel less alone. So history calms me down. It makes me feel less alone hanging out with all those dead people.
All right. I can see that. What is this thing we call democracy to you? What does it mean?
I like asking people that. You asked me the question I wanted to ask you. I think for me, democracy means that people have a real say over their communities and the institutions that dictate their lives. That's it. That's what it means. And when you divorce the people that are making decisions from the consequences of those decisions, I think you get incredibly immoral outcomes. And I think the closer you are to suffering the consequences of the decisions you make, the more moral your decisions are going to be. So for me, democracy is my moral compass. It's my North Star. How do we make sure that we have to deal with the consequences of the choices we make?
I agree with you wholeheartedly. I think that since you didn't ask me, but you wanted to, I will tell you that when we elect people and they take office, if they could overcome, I guess, what is really the hardest thing to overcome and put their constituents first.
Yeah, absolutely.
Instead of themselves. Instead of making a few shekels off of this or getting an advanced promotion to another seat for them. Think about your voters. Think about the people that put you there.
Yeah.
Every time I talk to someone that's just starting out in politics, I look at them with such a jaded eye. Whether I think they're viable or not, I think if they do overcome the obstacles and, you know, their inefficiencies, and they do get elected to office, I then have to watch them and worry about them and make sure that they're doing what they're doing, because that is the job of every citizen.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Whether they want to take it on or not. Last question. I want you to say it one more time.
Okay. What
is the website where people can go to help with this extremely important ballot initiative?
Mopupmichigan.org.
Mopupmichigan.org.
Yep. People need to circulate. And I have one more question for you.
Yes.
Why did you become an activist in 2018?
I became an organizer.
Why did you become an organizer?
I became an organizer because I like people, and the one thing that made the difference was that a viable female in 2016 was running for office.
Do you mean Hillary Clinton?
Hillary Clinton. And I, in my apathy, thought it was very strange that our country had never elected a woman to lead our country when 51% of our motherfucking population is female. And I have daughters. I'm sure you have or know lots of women.
Yep.
And I just didn't think that was very fair. That was it. And from then, my eyes opened, and now they can never be closed.
I have one more question.
Yes.
What distinction do you draw between activists and organizers?
I, in my not profound knowledge, think that an organizer is someone that organizes people, and people is where the power is, above money, above office, above influence, to activate, to get involved, to create a difference by spreading the word of what should be done to many other people. That's why I'm an organizer.
I love it.
An activist, I'm sure, takes on certain causes and works toward those causes, getting the outcome that they want. But I think an organizer is the person in the streets talking to the people behind them in line at the grocery and people like you and everything in between, and knowing it makes a difference. Oh, why am I going to cry now?
Because democracy is really meaningful, and we're doing it for each other.
And you made me sad. I hate that I know about the data centers.
No, but there's so many people that are really pushing back. So, for example, they've got a bunch of Bitcoin mines or something that they're trying to cite up in the UP, and people are making amazing inroads pushing back,
Even
right?
in the UP.
Even in the UP.
Oh, my God.
And even, Jim DeSanta, I spent 3 hours with him on Friday, and all we did was talk about things that we agreed on.
You know what? He's from Downriver. I'm from Downriver.
Yeah.
I'm right next door in Ecorse, where I grew up.
Right.
I have begged him to come on.
Oh, he should.
Because I don't want to attack him. We don't agree on everything, but I think he is the bravest person in his party to stand up to money in politics and take a stand on it.
Yeah.
And I would like to applaud him and hear more from him.
Absolutely.
A dyed-in-the-wool Republican.
Yeah. Yeah.
So Jim DeSanta, come on.
Yeah, come on, Jim DeSanta. And I think it's hard to see all the possibilities that are out there, right? It's hard to know how much better things could be, and it's hard to know that we have so much work ahead of us, because it does take a lot of time and energy to organize people when the other side has organized money. Like, it's just a massive amount of time. You've turned your life over to this, right? And all of that is an emotional load, but I think that it's a blessing far more than a curse, because it means that we have this like inherent connection, right? And like when you feel that, it can be really overwhelming, right? Because to me, that's like, I'm not a, particularly churchy person, but the way that I would like define spirituality is connecting to something bigger than yourself, with other people and creatures and everything, right? It's like that connection is like fundamentally what undergirds our sense of right and wrong. And so I think, it can feel like so overwhelming when we see that threatened, right? When we see these massive corporations coming in and tearing up communities and, like actually building out the technology that's going to pit us all against each other, staring at our phones and like fighting, right? But like that connection we have to each other is actually stronger. And I know it is. That's why they're so hell-bent on breaking it.
That's a great way to end.
Yeah.
Christy McGillivray, Voters Not Politicians, thanks for being here today.
Thanks, Lori.